AI will rule us. We will work for them. I say thank you to tell me you're welcome. Resemble human beings. They are kind of scary to see. So it tells you what you want to know, even though it's not supposed to tell you. We'll become servants or slaves to AI.
Hello, welcome to another episode on the Untold Alternatives podcast. Just before we dive in, please do well to like, subscribe, and share. It's very important that you subscribe because that way you stay abreast with conversations on this channel. Today we have another interesting conversation, and it's going to center around AI and robotics. Our guest today is Mamia Agbese. Mamia, thank you very much for coming. Mamia is a doctorate in information systems. Her research centers around what goes on in the world of AI and robotics. And so, Mamia, thank you for turning up to this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Right. So, I'm literally going to give you this puzzle. That's how we do it here on Untold Alternatives. We literally give you the puzzle and then you take it away. But let's start with what exactly goes on in this AI and robotics thing.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me once again and giving me the opportunity to contribute my own 2 cents to the issue of AI and robotics.
You're welcome.
The topic seemed to be like a very contemporary topic of our time, and it's gaining a lot of traction in both practice and even in academia as well. Everybody, or should I say most people, are familiar with AI in one way or the other.
Right.
And even because of that, robotics is coming to the forefront as well.
Right.
Okay. AI simply is just computing, or should I say machines doing things in a way that prior to this time only humans could do. Things like learning, like reasoning, communicating, like things you attribute to humans. It's a simulation, let's say computer simulation, to be able to provide this same attribute as well.
Interesting. And I saw like a couple of papers around this whole AI thing, and somebody simply described it as a brain system, like transferring the human kind of brain system into a machine. And I think you've highlighted some of those qualities now in learning, assimilation, and all of that. But then, what about robotics?
It's interesting that robotics, both concepts, should I say AI and even robotics, they've been around for a while now. It's just that with robotics, we seem to think about robots probably from what we see in movies, and then but now because of AI, we're beginning to see robots and robotics is coming into our own horizon more and more now. Robotics is just simply well, it's simple and it's also complex, because what it means is a lot of technologies in the background automating processes and systems for us. So things that it used to be more common, like probably manufacturing, you would find like a robotic arm which will do, like before that time humans were responsible for assembling, putting together, doing all of that. But with automation, it brought about robotics, and they were able to automate the processes and have robots do that instead. So robotics simply is just an assembly of technologies that help to automate, that make processes and systems automatic for us, so they can operate on their own with little or no human intervention.
Great. That's I think you've made it really simple and relatable to everyday life. And someone put it this way: the robots are more like the body, while the AI is more like the brain behind it. And there's something interesting you've also mentioned, that this has been around for a while, because I think many people see it like, oh, this is something that just came out of the blues. And I think that's why I wanted us to talk a little bit about the past. What has it really been like before now?
It is said that even before the 20th century, as far back as 19th or even 18th century, for both robotics and I think AI, they were more philosophical. There were things that philosophers or the intelligent people of that time they thought about a future where automation would help, or even computer, or another source of intelligence separate to man. So it's always been in the work. But I think it was for AI, everybody links it to Alan Turing and the Turing machine. I think far back as some people say 1930s, 40s, but it's actually in 1950s that we came to know about the Turing machine, which is a very interesting thing all by itself in the US. And AI, the form of what we call AI, was coined basically, or started coming into being. And back then, AI, or the evolution of AI, should I say, it started with like more rigid rules. Intelligence back then was just machine we had like knowledge systems. Knowledge systems are like probably maybe like medicine, the field of medicine. You have like a professional there who learn their knowledge there, and then the machine will rigidly follow the rules, so that whatever information it's providing is based on this. So they were kind of rigid, and it started, received some kind of traction, but it didn't gain so much because at that time it was thought to be expensive.
Okay.
And so the growth kind of floundered. But I think it was in the 90s, if I remember correctly, even in the 80s, that machine learning began to really take off. Machine learning took off, and machine learning then was just machine, like you mentioned earlier, human brain simulating. There was a simulation of what the human brain looked like. Then machine learning based on that. They will arrange the models to be like machine, basically like human brain, so that they could work like that. And even with machine learning, we've moved into another. AI too has evolved. We now have we now entered the deep learning era. Deep learning is with data. Data kind of was an explosion of data, and then with increased computation power. Computers nowadays are super fast. So with most of these, it helped deep learning to take off. So with deep learning is just like saying how your brain, just we had the normal brain that was experimented with and that worked. We had a lot of simple illustration of what artificial intelligence was. And then we had some chatbots, there was voice recognition, but with deep learning it kind of took it to a whole new level. With deep learning, they call them nodes, like human brains. Your brain is like a node, pass a message or information from one to the other. So that's how the learning they try to emulate, using different layers of data, so that at each point the AI models is trained. And even with deep learning has given room, or has even evolved to, or is, should I say, what we have right now, the most current AI we have right now are the generative predictive transformers, GPTs, which are trained using deep learning. But they also, what they do is that they're able to, they train the data, and with this data, they also retrain them in a certain way so that they can communicate with you. So you're able to communicate, like everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, most people are familiar with ChatGPT, which is like the most current GPT we have right now. And that, for now, they are the most current AI that we have, that AIs have evolved to.
Great. I think you've taken us really deep, and I like it. Now, you've talked about how this has evolved. A lot of people have expressed concerns lately about this evolution, starting from the past where this was more working more like within a very bureaucratic framework. It was limited to what it was confined and designed to do. But nowadays it seems like it's going explosive, like you rightly said. People have expressed concerns about humanity losing control over this technology. Is there anything like that? Is it real? Is it like a myth? Or do you think at any point we're going to lose control and the robots are going to be chasing us around and things like that? so
Well, that's an interesting take. The myth, as we call it, is, while it may seem like a myth, is one of the areas of study of artificial intelligence. It's known as AI ethics, where people worry about. One area is people worry about AI taking over the world, or even taking over jobs and making people jobless. AI, should I say it? Well, it's a myth for now, But with the way we all grow, who knows? The current of AI we are familiar with is what we call narrow intelligence. So with this level of intelligence, it's still humans are still involved. You have the human in the loop there. You need the human to be in there to be able to oversee, to have some sort of autonomy. There is also the general intelligence where artificial intelligence or AI, they are their own agency. They're able to make decisions with very little or no interference from humans. And then there's also the new one people think about, the super intelligent, which is the one that there's a fear that AI will take over the future, like we watch in movies.
Mm.
Since we are of this generation for now, we can only tackle with the narrow level of intelligence and the issues that it proffers, that it brings up. In terms of fear of AI taking over the world, that remains to be seen because we are yet to attain two more levels before we get there.
Mm.
But in terms of AI taking over jobs, it's it it's double-edged in one sense, in the sense that yes, that does happen, but AI, like any other technology, grows, and the way it interacts with we humans, at the end of the way we interact with it, it evolves. It brings about changes on our part and also on its part. It's a phenomenon. We all study it and see what it has to offer. Yes, it does take some jobs, but it also creates new jobs as well. So in as much as you may be displaced, if they use AI to automate a robotic system, you can also retrain, because humans are very resilient. What we do is that we take advantage of anything that, any loophole or any lapse, and then we use that for our own benefit. We're very good at adapting. And we also have the advantage that there's always a need for a human to be in the loop. So I would say for now, it remains a myth, not full blown truth. Yes, and part myth, part truth, I would say.
Interesting. But let's go back a little bit. For me, I've seen that AI nowadays is more like Google. Permit me to use that comparison. For instance, when people have questions, in the very general space, they would say, "Oh, go to Google." Like that's go-to place. And AI, I think it's becoming, especially the generative ones, like you highlighted earlier, is fast becoming that. So I think the time may come when people wouldn't know what life felt like before it became affordable, before it became openly accessible. Do you have anything to say about that? What do you think, or in your own field or profession, what was the world really like before this whole explosive technology?
Well, since I kind of grew up in the era of technology, I can say that for now, for our generation, AI for now is the technology, is the technology. And because it is the technology, it does seem larger than life. Looks like it's taking over everywhere. Prior to that, this time, you mentioned Google Web, right?
Yeah.
Using the software,
Hmm.
using the web interface to Google,
Yeah.
or even your app to Google,
Right.
and you'll have, it's about information
Hmm.
to run it. And then this, the reason why AI seems so larger than life is because we are in an information era as well. So that drive, the drive for information, is also pushing technology as well. If you go back in time, there was a time where people used just rudimentary tools to farm before
Right.
the revolution, mechanization came in, before they
Hmm.
started using tractors and everything. And then it seemed like at one time people never used traditional tools to farm, and that took over everything. Mechanized farming evolved, and now it's even more, it's digitalized now per se. So
Yeah.
even farming, even if you're doing like the local way of farming, it's different from what it used to be.
Right.
That too has evolved. So with computers, when they came, they were also, nobody could conceive what they were before they came. But as soon as they came, they gained traction and they took over the world. So it is with any new invention, I would say. AI too is like any other invention. But because we're in the era of information and technology, the growth and speed is highly accelerated.
I see. Now let's talk about the robots a little bit, because I think that's the part where people get to see in action. Nowadays, I think there are already warehouses where
Mhm.
robots are doing jobs and all of that. And Indeed, one of the greatest worry has been about replacement. I mean, replacing humans in the job space. But I think there's something you said earlier that this technology doesn't work in isolation. It's more or less the whole tech space is evolving. And I think that as the tech space evolving, it comes with, of course, challenges and opportunities. And that's what humanity thrives on in terms of taking advantage of these challenges to create new opportunities while
Exactly.
also exploring the opportunities. So, what do you think we should expect in the future? Can we expect a future where perhaps everybody will have a robot at home or things like that?
Sounds very much like Black Mirror, right? Well, the interesting thing about robotics is that with each era of technology, we have increased computation, we have increased power, and with this increment and the cheaper hardware gets, the easier it is to build even things like robots. Robots used to be so expensive to make before, so it wasn't an area a lot of people invested in. But with computation power increasing, with hardware getting cheaper, information all over the place, robots are becoming more mainstream. You find them, like you said, in warehouses. You find them even in healthcare. They help doctors to perform surgery high risk areas or even simply or some sort of surgery. I can't say simplify because that's not my field.
Mhm.
But the gist is that robotics is becoming more mainstream. As to it being a household thing in the future, that remains to be seen because there's also the flip side of robots because like humanoids, those robots that are made to resemble human beings, they are kind of scary, would you say?
Yeah.
So they are not entirely human. So having, even though the sci-fi movies they want us to believe that robots and humans can coexist peacefully in the same state,
Yeah.
same space, it's hard for me to imagine that now. But having said that, it is something that is gradually coming into fruition because we see there are so many like we have sex dolls. We have people that are buying stuff like that. Those are like they're robotic in a way, aren't they? They're
Yeah.
just engineered with AI to communicate very well. We have in places like Japan, they're experimenting with home care robots to help elderly people to assist them with their drugs or to provide healthcare because they have an aging society. So the people are falling into that era. So it may be possible, maybe not during our lifetime, maybe during our lifetime that robots may become mainstream or become a household thing. We can never tell because information is accelerating at such a really fast pace. So we cannot rule that out entirely.
Interesting. Now, let's talk a little bit around the ethics. There have been so much, noise around the ethics or the ethical frameworks, or if you like, ethical underpinning of this technology. Can you take us a little bit into that puzzle? What exactly is it about this ethics that people worry about, and why should we even worry?
Like any other technology, it's always important to make sure that it's designed or developed in a way that resonates with human beings, where we can accept it,
Right.
with a way that works with the way we work, what is
Right.
good, what is bad.
Mhm.
So ethics is just about the morals. Like you and I, we have it may be uncommunicated, but there are some certain codes we live by, even as human beings. I
Right.
wouldn't come into your space, you wouldn't come into my space.
Right.
So there's some sort of ethics involved with the way we communicate, with the way we relate. So if we're going to be designing um, artificial intelligence to come into the human space, we're interacting with it. You and I using our kids are using it. Generations behind us, in front of us, everybody's using it. There must be some safeguards there to make sure that the technology does not abuse humans, and humans in turn don't abuse the technology. Because at the end of the day, the technology is just technology. It's only how you interact with it, what you use it for, that's what makes it good or bad. So ethics is about making sure that some sort of safeguard, some sort of morals, people that design and develop them, people that use them, the technology itself is designed in such a way that the way we interact with it, the way we use it in a, or it's used in as humane a manner as possible. That's what it is, so that we don't take advantage of each other the
Great.
wrong way.
Great. Now, do you think also that this technology works the same way in every space? By that, I mean, for instance, let me use geographical regions globally as an instance. For example, So Asia, Europe, Americas, Africa. I believe that these different systems have different traditions and also maybe even moral traditions that underpins what ethics means to them. Does this technology have that kind of dynamic framework that you can work differently in these different spaces?
Well, ethics on its own it can be subjective because different people view right and wrong differently.
Right.
Having said that, there's still general ethical rules that apply regardless of geographic, whatever your
Mm-hmm.
geographic
Yeah.
region or whatever, however you delineate it, there are still general rules that apply. But ethics on its own is subjective. It depends on where you stay, what you. But the people, but having said that, that also cascades down to the people that use technology. The way artificial intelligence or robots per se may be used in America, Europe, Asia could be different from the way it's used in Africa. Could also be the way it's used in Africa is different from the way it's used in Asia. Like a colleague of mine was telling me that in parts of Asia, even before Europe started gaining traction, AI has been in use for a while now. They use it a lot in healthcare, in transportation, in security. It's always been there. And even in America, they are kind of on the forefront of using technology. Naturally, even ChatGPT is from there. But in places like Europe, while the technology is there, there's not a push to use the technology that often because Europeans are quite they value um, ethics a lot, should I say? They value the fact that they want to create technology that they are very cautious when it comes to using technology because they are aware that if used wrongly, it can affect. So, given the way it is here, I think that the ethical side may be viewed differently than what it is maybe in Asia. So, different regions, I would say, view it
Yeah.
differently.
So yeah, I understand that like more like different strokes for different folks.
Exactly.
Right, that's understandable. Let's talk a little bit around the application of this technology. Can you take us deep into that? What context and areas can they be applied at the moment? And possibly you can even peep into the future. What can we expect?
Well, I would say that AI is pretty much almost everywhere. Like most of our smartphones, most of them come with artificial intelligence and even with some form of artificial intelligence because for iPhones you have Siri, you also have Alexa. Those are like those are artificial intelligence. Basically, the agents they communicate with you using voice. You can talk to them and they communicate with you. But they've always been there, or should I say, they've been there for a while. But as AI is growing, they've become more interactive because machine learning they're learning more. I can like before a year or so ago, when I would ask Siri to do something for me, and I would say thank you, it wouldn't say anything. But now, if I ask it to do something, I say thank you to tell me you're welcome. So, and you see, with Alexa is almost like second nature to some
Mm,
people that use
yeah.
Google. So we have its implementation in these areas, in the area of communication, in technology, even with a lot of banks, the algorithm that they use to um, a lot of them use artificial intelligence because it helps them with recommendation, even with Netflix, even with Google. Once you watch program, the next thing you have like 50 or 60 of those
Mm,
ones listed. So you have recommendations. So in these sorts of implementation, we find them pretty much everywhere, particularly in the web space and with your apps. So they are there in one way or the other. And as they continue to evolve, we'll find that they're even more intrusive. Like even your Fitbit, your watch that you would wear, it uses artificial intelligence as well. A lot of them use that.
mm,
So as the technology becomes more sophisticated, more obtainable, we're going to have it even being more integrated into our everyday life because we have home systems and they're being engineered to use AI as well. And so the more you interact with these systems, the more you interact with artificial intelligence. So in one way or the other, even the even with the new phones now are going to imbibe more of artificial intelligence so that even the least informed person who uses a smartphone is interacting with one form of AI or the other. So I would say in terms of implementation or integration, AI is it's making its way into almost every form of technology. And as time goes on, it will become even more pervasive in our society. Robotics, on the other hand, is seeing a slower growth, but in the domain which it's used or they are applied, they are becoming more mainstream. And as the technology does improve and does grow, particularly because robotics it has a lot of technologies there, it will grow and we'll find robots even in casual spaces, meaning we'll interact with it more casually, we'll get used to it. So the implementation is growing, it's penetrating deeper and deeper into society, I would say.
Great. One can say that the Gen Z seems to be the tech generation because, like, this is the generation when technology is going really explosive and mainstream. Since COVID-19, we've seen like a massive shift. It seems like the whole world has entered a new trajectory. Things that we didn't foresee are becoming the new normal. What do you think will happen if this tech continues to evolve this way? And like you mentioned, there are still heights that we've not unraveled. So can we say that that's like a peep into the future, especially with this kind of technology?
That's a very interesting question and very outlook on life. You're quite right that the current generation, Gen Z, as they are labeled, are not like their predecessors, the millennials,
Yeah.
because Gen Z they have the, like we said, we're in the information age, and because of that, they have the privilege of the power of information, coupled with technologies such as artificial intelligence. It's helped them to become their own bosses using social media. A lot of them use social media as a backbone to create their own wealth, which other generations did not have. So this is like a whole new innovation that really helps you to become your own boss. I think that's good because it gives them the platform to be themselves. It allows you to evolve as a human being. This is what I want to do. This is not what I want to do. And it also helps to create wealth. A lot of them are wealthier than even their parents were at their age. So, and the parents had to put in almost all their youthful life to get to where they are now.
Right.
So I would say it's a good thing. As to the sustainability of this wealth, that's where the balance lies or the question hangs, because for now, yes, it works. You don't really have to train yourself. You can jump on the internet like YouTube, have your own space, do your own thing, or even on Instagram or even TikTok. Yes, for now it's sustainable, but in the long run, no one knows because technology is always changing. If it does change, human beings, like we talked about earlier, are quite adaptable. We can try and change and adapt. As of the future of work on its own, businesses, um, it's something that we have to watch out for, I would say, because if you're having a generation that is not trained of going to work, is having a discipline, you have to discipline yourself to wake up in the morning, you have to discipline yourself to go to work,
Yeah.
you have to discipline yourself to take your boss's stress and discipline yourself to obey your boss,
Yeah.
meet a quota, have a goal, meet it. And even when you're denied promotion, be disciplined enough to stay there.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
That these are not skills or these are not disciplines this generation have learned to imbibe. So in the long run, as to the sustainability of their business or the business space, that remains to be seen. What it will evolve to, it's not known.
Okay.
So short term, it's great, it works. But even the future of the job market, having a sustainable population to keep it moving, too, is another
Yeah,
thing we have to
that's
worry
yeah.
about.
Let's talk a little bit about consciousness. Can AI be self-aware?
Become a sentient being, that's to become a reasoning agent all by itself, like you and I.
Yeah.
Well, if the people who, what should I say, the people who are for the technology, they had their way, yes. Because that means, it's something it would be great actually if that were to happen for the sake of technology. But as to the actualization of that, that remains to be seen. Because you and I, what makes us human? A machine cannot be human.
Okay.
Already, we're using a lot of technologies to make it appear human.
Yeah.
And the human mind is very complex. So to replicate that level of complexity with our cognition, scientists will say it's possible, but I, for one, think it's possible to make a machine that simulates human intelligence to a very believable level.
Yeah.
But for a machine to be a truly human agent, or to be, is it sentient? That's the word. That I don't think is possible. That's my own opinion.
Okay. You think that's one of the limits of humanity, I guess?
Well, humanity, they don't think they have any limits. So that's just my own personal opinion, because we are very complex beings.
Right.
It takes a lot to make us take one person. So to replicate that in a machine, well, I like to say it, but I think it's to get a real machine agent that is, it can't sound human but be human. I don't think so.
Okay. Now, I think the way tech is evolving is quite rapid. And there are people who are slow to catch up, usually, in terms of any new technology or
True.
innovation. Do you think we should worry that anybody will be left behind with this kind of explosive pace of technological evolution?
Mm, I don't know about worry, because what's it called? There are people who, is it early adopters and all that.
Yeah,
So
right.
there are people who catch on with the technology and
Right.
move swiftly, and then there are the laggards. For many, lack of education, no digital literacy, they may not need it because they have their own way of doing things and it works for them. Like my mom, you couldn't make her even do anything AI, and she's quite fine because she's worked hard in her life and she's self-sufficient. So to a certain demographic, it may not matter. But for the growing population, the growing generation, particularly those of them that lack, that have very little access to education or literal, what's it called, digital literacy, if it's poor, it does pose a problem because they are the future. And if they are to be at par with their contemporaries, there's a need for them to become literate about these things.
Okay,
So, yes, there's that danger.
I see. Now, we talked a little bit about the issue of population growth and all of that before. Some people are worried that the human population seems to be on decline because some of the most populous countries are now losing their positions. For example, India has overtaken China as the most populous country in the world. And future prospects seem to be projecting that the world population is going to be on decline as against what we thought before. Now, I think that's one of the logic why some people think that we really need this technology to fill some gaps or some spaces for our future. So, do you think that we may have any point where we would run into conflicts with these technologies, or do you think we are going to just coexist where we are going to be in full control of everything for forever?
That's very interesting. For now, the way it seems like we are currently interacting or using the narrow level of intelligence. So based on that, it's hard to see how they can take over or how they can have more autonomy than we do have. Because for now, it's human autonomy. Autonomy is key. With population, everything is based on what people forecast per se. It's up today, it's down tomorrow. So we can't categorically say that it's going down, it's going to stay that way. No. In some area, it's going to wobble, may go up, may go down,
Yeah,
and people will adjust.
yeah,
Where in the case of humans and AI, we already coexist together. we're already attached in one way or the other. We're
Yeah.
already existing, but we have autonomy. So the most important thing is to put measures in place which will always keep the human being in charge. Because if you're going to create an all AI system to control, maybe let's say a processing arm, and then if something goes wrong, it's just going to follow its rules, and then you are locked out.
Right.
So it's very, very important that the human is always kept in the loop so that we don't run into costly mistakes. I don't know about them taking over, but it does have like serious backlash if we don't do it right. For this level of robots we have right now, current level of robotics, I'll say that they are more or less like the prototypes.
Okay.
They are learning so that even more advanced ones can be created. So we see our small robots running in the snow, and they learn, the data is collected. If you get stuck in the snow, you can either reverse or something. And so they will check the hardware. Maybe you need sturdier tires. They'll check the programming. Maybe you need to reverse if you see snow. Maybe you need to sound an alarm. So they're going to get even more intelligent so that the next batch that they will roll out will be an improvement on this one. So we should expect to see more sophisticated robots. We should expect a high level of interaction with them. Should technology continue at the pace at which it's going, we should expect to see more interactive and more efficient robots, I'll say.
Great. Now, let me take you to, I think we're wrapping up now.
Okay.
The developmental space, the world problem spaces, like the space that borders on policy and governance and things like that. Where do you think this technology really comes in? If we are looking at the issues, the real issues that are plaguing the world, for example, climate change, sustainability related issues, energy transition, poverty, unemployment, all of that, where exactly do you see this technology coming in to help solve some of these problems?
Well, already AI is helping a lot, I would say. I'm from Nigeria, and it's like the content creation space we're talking about, that we had a discussion about that earlier, is booming. And this is because of technologies like AI that is really helping, like recommendation and all that. It's creating a job market for people, for the youth previously who had no other form of employment. Now with your smartphone, you can do anything you want. You can even go to Google and just record yourself and post it there, and hopefully do stuff to give you likes so that you can be an influencer or something in that space. So my point is that technology is helping, and the better you are with your content, the more recommendation,
Okay.
yeah. So it is creating a whole new job niche for people. So the space, it's helping in job creation, while on the one hand it's automating some processes, and people, and such repetitive jobs are going to them. More evolved jobs are also being created. So yes, it's doing its own piece. In terms of poverty and all, these technologies alone are not enough to take care of these problems. Most of them are governance issues, and recommendation systems, like in terms of it can contribute in the sense that in terms of industry, how well is it used? Is it used to create more wealth for the industry? Is it used for businesses? Are they making more money? And how does that translate into the society? That it does help. But in the sense of eradicating real governance issues, it's not enough to do that. I'd say it's
Okay.
limited in those areas.
Mm.
It can help, but that's not its primary job.
I see. Now, as we wrap up, what is some of the greatest myth you've heard about this tech?
Well, myths that are even sounding more and more realistic. I've heard that we're going to have super intelligent AIs out, just like I see in a Black Mirror. I've heard that there will be no jobs. People will become servants or slaves to AI. I've heard that AI will rule us. We will work for them. I've heard I've heard so many things that I think they are myths at the end of the day, because of how good the technology is now. it's safe to say that people are scared, rightly so, because it's not something you've seen before. But it's like any other technology, and in due time, it will continue to mingle or interact with humans until it becomes second place. Just like we have the TV, it will become like any other technology for now.
Wow, that's great. Now, people believe that to benefit from the opportunities that this technology comes with, one needs to really be in the tech space. Is that true? For instance, you need to go into programming and stuff like that, be a techie, for instance. Do you really need to do that to benefit from?
Depends on the kind of benefit you're looking for. If it's financial benefit, the more trained you are in that area, because now we have like AI experts, we have machine learning engineers, we have so many jobs that have cropped up as a result of AI. So it has created jobs. So it depends on the benefit. The more trained you are in that space, it is the hottest space right now, the higher your earning power will be. But there are also people who are not trained, but they're making loads of money. We talked about influencers. You need to create good content and then keep the algorithm. If it's good enough, you get likes, the algorithm keep recommending it. If it goes to the top of the pile, you can have a viral video, and in no time you can become an influencer. So you don't need to have techie skills for those kinds. We talked about people who just have smartphones and they're able to achieve a lot with that. So it depends on which space you're in. If you want to be in the techie space and you want to increase your earning power, yes, you will need to advance your skills in the tech. You need to have really good tech, or you need to have techie skills. Maybe not great, but some sort of techie skills. But on the other side, on the other hand, no, you do not necessarily need. It depends on the benefit. Looking at techie side, your earning power, it's different levels. So depending on where you find yourself, you can make yourself fit in and benefit from it.
Great. Yeah. Now, what kind of conversations are going on in the research space on this technology?
Well, I've been researching trustworthy AI, and for a while now, the AI ethics thing kind of started. But because of the GPTs we have now, it's more about the functionality of AI. How can it benefit me? How can it benefit me? How can it benefit my business? People are looking to glean as much benefits that they can from the business, from the technology. So from now, it's all about what can it do as people are studying it, what makes it tick, how can it be improved? It takes on a whole life form of its own. So what is it doing? What can it do? So even the ethical side is at the back burner now, because you first need to, while it's still there, it's still very much there, but the practical application, what can it do? How can it do it? If I combine it with this, will it do that? What makes it tick? To make it more trustworthy is still a very good topic, but it's taking second place to these other functionalities, I would say.
Okay. Can we say that one of the reasons why these ethical issues have become really important is that you don't want to create something that will chase you out of out of your office or in the lab someday, or even during the process of creation, and then suddenly you realize that what you created is now chasing you out, as someone suggested sometime.
Yeah. Well, we hope so. Yeah, it's important because the technology is really, it's advancing, and the way, like I said, the way we're interacting with it is also, it's dynamic, and it's opening up new areas. So we all worry, is this like data, for instance? Nobody really cared much about who took your data or not until we found out that companies like Facebook was selling it to make money. Google, they were using your data, so it became an area of concern. So we now have, that the EU, they have their regulation like the GDPR and all that. So it depends on how. Sometimes it's when we interact with it that we get to know, oh, there's an issue there. Like with ChatGPT, even though they are guardrails, I can engineer it. There's some people that are very good. They can break it because they can ask it they can ask it in such a way, they fine-tune the question in such a way that it tells you what you want to know, even though it's not supposed to tell you. I've forgotten the term. There's a term for that. And so it happens. So it's how you interact with it that even creates more concern, because at this stage it's still growing, we're still learning. So the more we interact with it, the more we use it, the more it even opens up other areas of concern for us.
Great, great. You have done justice to this puzzle, and
Okay.
because this is a very interesting conversation. Thank you so much for coming. It's been wonderful having you on this episode of Untold Alternatives. Just before we go, please remember to subscribe.